It's 11, so let's get started. Thank you for
Yeah,
joining us today.
my
For
pleasure.
those of you who don't know Jackie, if you can just talk a little bit about yourself, what you're doing, why you're in Costa Rica.
So, everyone, my name's Jackie, and I have transitioned. I had a clinical practice. I'm an RMT, had a clinical practice in Toronto for about 12, 13 years. I was also one of the lead instructors for fascial stretch therapy, working with DTS for I think 8 or 9 years. And I have been transitioning over the past few years, doing different things. Got really into more psycho-emotional work in terms of just adding that into the physical aspect with my clients, dipping into some abdominal massage, also the mindful meditation. And then more recently, the last 2 years, doing more retreats, group setting retreats, but then also one-on-one retreats with people. And that's one of the main reasons why I'm in Costa Rica. Costa Rica's always had my heart. And I did the big transition where actually I've been here now since October and ran a few retreats. Things obviously have slowed down now because of the current situations, but it's a nice break for me as well. But that's kind of currently where I am. I'm in Costa Rica and running retreats, wellness retreats, kind of just broad range of really holistic nutrition, movement, meditation, all of that stuff. And I'm really enjoying it. And the group setting and also the one-on-one contact that I get with people is something that I'm really enjoying. Taking all of the knowledge and all of the things that I've accumulated over the years with my clinical practice and with teaching, and now applying that to more kind of in-depth work with people in more of an experiential experience.
So are you in Costa Rica full time now, or are you still coming back and
Not
forth?
full time. I was actually supposed to be back. I was supposed to be back in Toronto April 4th,
Yep.
but things got changed just because of everything that's going on. I made the choice to stay here longer. I just wasn't feeling comfortable traveling. And to be completely honest, I'd rather be quarantined here than in an apartment in Toronto, if I'm going to be completely honest. So my goal is to eventually come back.
Mhm.
The idea is for me to kind of do half and half. I've never really been a fan of the winter. That's kind of one of the reasons why this was a goal of mine. So spending most of like the colder months here and then back in Ontario for, spring, summer, and a bit of the fall. So obviously this year's unique as under the circumstances. I'm here longer, which I have no problem with. But doing the half and half. I want my cake and I want to eat it too. So I'm doing half and
Fantastic.
half as long as I can.
That's great. So what will be a typical day for you? Are you still running the resort now? Like you have a group of people with you?
No, so I mean, the people that are here with me now, I ran a co-work retreat back in March, and some people that were here for that some people decided to go back home, like kind of when all of this was starting, and then other people decided to stay here. So I have friends of mine that were part of that co-work that are the ones that decided to stay. So there's 7 of us here. So it's not a retreat setting. We're just kind of co-living right now, and everyone's doing their own thing. Some of them have online businesses that they're continuing to run. Some have shifted from some people have clinical practices back home, but they've shifted to some online stuff. So it's a bit of a mix, but we're all pretty much in the health and wellness industry. It's a fun group to be around. It's all my Care Bears, as some of you might know.
Yeah.
I'm a big advocate of Care Bears, and I even call this place Care Bear Mountain, and everyone that comes has to come up with a Care Bear name, and I'm still all about the Care Bear jam. So I'm just living
Absolutely.
with six other Care Bears, and figuring out how to have our alone time, how to co-live, how to do all of that, which has been lots of fun and challenging at times. But for the most part, it's been pretty good.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So the main purpose obviously is to
Yeah.
talk about stress and anxiety.
Hmm.
So you're in a place where you've mentioned that Toronto is not a place you want to be self-quarantined in. It's a bit
Hmm.
better mentally and physically for you to remain in
Yeah.
Costa Rica. What would you say would be, let's start with the top tip of what we can do to help people who are finding they're more stressed or
Hmm.
more
Hmm.
anxious than they should be?
Yeah. So I have 3 main tips that I want to cover with you guys today. And it doesn't really matter. I mean, obviously being in nature is a huge bonus. So that's not necessarily the reality for some people where you guys are. So I think taking that out of the picture, that would be the ideal, but I'm not even going to address that because I know that that's not people's reality right now. So I'm going to cover 3 things that have been the most helpful for me in my journey of, dealing with stress and anxiety, and also things that I've really had some good feedbacks from my clients, whether it was back in my clinical setting or now even in my more retreat setting. The first one is meditation. Meditation is my non-negotiable. You just kind of asked me what like a day looks like for me, and that's how I start my day. Every morning I wake up and I start my day with meditation and some movement. And if you remember, and if some people are tuning in that were at your event that you had back in July, this is a big one for me. And I think right now, especially because people transition from like their normal everyday lives of like just, going to work, everything, like all of their habits, whether it's working out, going to work, a combination of everything, just what normal was. And now everything's shifted where everyone's now stuck at home. People are like trying to maintain the lifestyle or the habits that they had when they could leave their home, and they're trying to bring that in their home, which some people are doing really easily. Other people are having challenges with that. So I think that for me, the highlight and one of the biggest gifts, if we can talk about this experience being a little bit of a gift for everyone, how you mentioned the gift of being able to like catch up on sleep and recover a little bit from that, is looking at this as like a real gift of taking time to like slow down and stop and maybe, try something different. If you're like a go and like everything's always on the move, is like trying the complete opposite. And for me, meditation, it was a big thing for me because I used to be that person like go. And when I got meditation introduced to myself, it was a struggle at first because I'm sitting there and I'm just like, okay, this isn't working. Like, I don't want to sit. I'm uncomfortable. Like, I got to move. But once you can kind of like get past that, the power of being able to like tune in and like calm your thoughts, tune into your breath, slow things down, and really do that journey inwards. There's so much healing and power that can lie within that. And a lot of times stress and anxiety can arise because we're constantly trying to distract ourselves and we don't want to really deal with like the underlying issue that it might be. So it's easy to like just keep pushing, keep moving forward, like keep doing all of those things. Like we're so overstimulated all the time, especially now, even though we're stuck at home. People are on their phone more than ever. People are online, whether it's Netflix or whether it's Instagram or whether it's online learning. Like people are still in that mode of like getting that stimulus, that external stimulus inwards. So my first one is to like take time to like remove. I'm not saying for people not to do that because I think that those are very important to continue to do, but I invite people to try and add, if you aren't already, a meditative practice where you kind of shut out all of that external stimulus to start to train yourself to go inwards, because there's so many things like underlying, whether it's physical pain that you experience that can be dealt with by turning in and meditating, whether it's psycho-emotional stuff, whatever it might be. There's so many answers that we have within ourselves, and it's hard to dive in when we're constantly out here looking at external stimulus. So that would be one thing that I have found really helpful. And it's challenging, just like lifting a bar for the first time is challenging, pushing like heavy weights, challenging. Everything that you do for the first time and that's new is challenging. But sometimes we have to we tend to always gravitate towards the things that we're used to doing. Even if they were challenging at once, we got good at them. So we're going to keep doing that. I really want to invite people to try stuff that they don't normally do, that they're not used to doing, get a little bit uncomfortable and sit with that discomfort, because there's so many things that you might discover about yourself within that discomfort that can be so helpful to then go back into your other stuff and do it better and kind of start to strip away some of that underlying anxiety that might be with that. So meditation is like number one. And whether you want to do it guided, there's so many meditation apps out there. That was
my next question. How do you get into that meditation? Because like you mentioned, when you first started, it was just like, you don't want to sit still and you're like, why am I doing this?
Yeah. Well, the one thing I would say is, as a beginner, definitely having guided meditations is really helpful, because at least you have something to listen to that can kind of guide you along the way. I don't think that starting with silence is the best way to do it, because it's not necessarily, you won't have as much compliance because people get frustrated. So having something, whether it's like, and starting with 5 minutes, just start with 5 minutes and then 10, and then moving up from there. I think a big thing too that I'd like to inform people is there's this huge misconception about meditation that you should be sitting still with your legs crossed for 1 hour. And like, if it's not that, then you're not meditating. And that's just not the way it is. Meditation can be 2 minutes. It can be 5 minutes. It can be 10, and you can work your way up. And some days you're going to sit and 5 minutes is going to feel like a struggle. And other days you're going to sit for an hour and it's like the time flew by. So just like anything else, like being kind with yourself and even just observing yourself day by day as you start to introduce that habit of what works best for you. And one day is completely different from the next. Another misconception with, I find, meditation is people think that it's about clearing their mind, of like literally like pressing the erase button and just like not thinking of anything, when it's not about that at all, because that's really hard to do. And that's where I find people get really frustrated. I can't stop my mind. I can't stop thinking. And that's not the point. The point is to allow the thoughts to come through like a movie. Like you're just watching them as they come by, you're watching them and you're just observing them, but you're not attaching or obsessing over any thoughts. So like if I'm going to go into a meditation, whether it's guided or silent, and say I want to stay connected to my breath, and I'm connected to my breath, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, like, what am I going to have for lunch? I'm like, oh, did I pick up the groceries on time? Like, and then you start to go down that rabbit hole. It's like, okay, observing that happening, not getting frustrated about it, but saying, okay, I'm obviously thinking about food right now. That's okay. But I'm going to come back to my breath, and you continue to observe your breath. And then, oh, another thought comes in. Okay. Observe it, notice it, and then coming back. So that's really more of just like observing it without judging or like jumping in this rabbit hole, instead of just erasing and clearing your mind of anything. That's not what it's about. So whether it's a guided meditation, which that's why I think as a beginner, guided is really helpful, because you have something to follow along. So it's your mind is still going to wander, but it's less likely than if you're just sitting in silence. So there's so many apps out there right now. What I love about this time is there's so many people throwing things out there like for free, and just like the resources are abundant and endless. So I definitely invite people to kind of explore that and find what works for you. Some people it's just music that they're listening to. Some people it's like actual words that they're guided. So try, if this is new for you, like try everything and see what sticks, and just start there. Just everywhere, every time, everything that we do new, we have to start somewhere. So absolutely. That's a big one for me.
So with the meditation, I know a lot of breathing comes into it, and breath is something that's becoming a lot more popular, nasal breathing, all that stuff. Do you find that slowing down your own breathing will help with calming down your thoughts, or how would you suggest that?
I think it's not only for me, it's not only about tuning into the breath and taking deeper breaths and slowing down the breaths, but one meditation that I really like to add with the breath work is actually visualize your lungs, visualize the air as it's like coming in your nose, like going down, entering the lungs, and then actually like visualizing it, like expanding your entire lung. And then like think about, like, even visualize the cells that are like absorbing the oxygen. So adding that like visual aspect of the meditation, instead of just thinking, okay, I'm going to take deep breaths and slow it down, adding that visualization will help to slow it down. And it's actually going to help not have your mind wander, because you're literally like going on this journey. I don't know if you guys remember like the Magic School Bus. Do we remember the Magic School Bus?
Love the Magic
So you remember
School
how
Bus.
she would like shrink? Yeah, she would like shrink down and like go in, and like think about it like that. So like hop on your Magic School Bus and literally go in with the air as it enters your nose, and like explore the inside of your body and explore your lungs and visualize that. And even that alone can be such a beautiful meditation, because a big thing with breath too is people can take a deep breath, but they might not be fully breathing. They might not even be aware of like where they're feeling it in their body. So adding the visualization, adding like the physical aspect of whether you want to like have your hands around your ribs so that you're making sure that like everything's expanding, or if you want to be lying down while you're doing it and feel like the ribs, especially in the back of the body, is where people tend to be really stuck with their breath, like pushing your ribs into the floor, like whatever, whether it's a tactile cue or a visual cue, whatever that may be, like just make it more whole, instead of just saying, okay, I'm going to take deep breaths and I'm going to count to 10, and like on the inhale, like it's so much more than that. So that visual piece is a huge thing that I find has helped people, because I think it helps also to broaden people's awareness of their anatomy. So not just being aware of how slow you're breathing, but what it physically feels in your body, and like visualizing those cells, like absorbing that oxygen and like sending it to all of like the muscles and everywhere in your body, is such a beautiful way, a beautiful thing to add to just instead of just being aware of the breath, like expanding your awareness of breath. So hop on that magic school bus and go and explore.
Perfect. Okay, so tip number one, obviously, is meditation, breathing, becoming one with yourself. Tip number